on today's episode of the Unlocked podcast, we are talking about how carb restriction can lead to weight gain when combined with fasting, and how when following extreme carb restricted diets go backwards and can keep you stalled out and make it difficult for you to actually release and lose the weight. And we're also going to talk about in today's episode your routine and how crafting and shifting around your routine could make or break the success in your weight loss journey. And I have some tips for you on that. Getting straight into this, let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? Carb restriction is one of those diets that we hear everywhere. Don't eat carbs, they'll make you fat. Get rid of the carbs and you'll drop weight like crazy. And maybe you've tried this and maybe you've started up like a carnivore diet or a keto diet or a low carb diet where you restrict your carbs down a lot, and maybe you've seen the scale move very quickly. And this happens for a couple of reasons. For one, when you remove the carbohydrates, the reason they're called carbohydrates is that they are connected to hydrogen. They absorb water. And when you consume carbs, they also need water. And so you're going to retain water when you're consuming those carbs. Now, if you go on a low carb diet, your body's going to shed that water very quickly. And this could feel great. And you can feel like you're losing weight, and that feels exciting, and that can push you forward and make you motivated. And then if you keep going with it, and eliminating that macronutrient group of the carbohydrates, eventually, you're restricting calories as a byproduct, and then your body is going to be losing weight as well. Now, over time, if you do this for too long, what can happen is you might notice that you become stalled out, and then you will start feeling like, okay, I have been eating extremely low carb, but I'm not losing any more weight. And actually, I'm starting to gain weight. Why am I gaining weight when I'm eating such a low carb diet? This doesn't make sense, okay? And the reason for this, and this is what I found with myself, okay? I was on the ketogenic diet for years, like 3 years, and I was implementing that along with intermittent fasting. And what happened was I dropped my carbs down so low that I didn't realize this at the time, but your brain cannot fully function on ketones. Your brain does love ketones, but it also loves carbohydrates. And your brain needs at least 50% of the calories that it needs in a day to come from carbohydrates. And if you're not consuming those carbs for yourself, if you're not eating carbohydrates, what's going to happen is your body is going to take the protein you're eating and it's going to convert it to carbs, sugar, glucose that's going to be running through your veins, that is going to also increase your blood glucose level, which it needs for your brain. Now, in the process of doing this, you are now out of ketosis and you are on the edge. And what happens when you're on the edge of being in ketosis, out of ketosis, is it causes cravings. And those cravings for food is what then makes it very, very difficult to stay on track to the diet. And so what was happening to me was I was eating very low carbs, and then the protein I was eating, my body was not using that protein for the correct reasons. I was doing a lot of weight training and lifting, and I was trying to build muscle, but I wasn't building muscle because my body needed the protein to turn it into glucose. And so this is why they say high protein diets aren't necessarily a good thing. Like, higher protein is good, but really high protein diets are not beneficial, because once you get over the certain amount of protein that you necessarily need, and I think for women that's like around over 100 grams of protein, once you get over that mark, what happens is your body, we don't have a way to store protein, right? We bring protein in and we convert it to amino acids, and then those amino acids are building blocks for muscles. But if you have an excess, your body's going to turn it into glucose and it's going to put it into storage just like fat, or it's going to use it for your brain. So When you follow a restricted carbohydrate diet, this is, and it's for too long, you know, and it's way too low in carbs. That's how that can backfire on you, because you clearly, it's almost like you're eating this high fat plus all of these carbs. And then the other thing is, when you restrict your carbs so much and it causes those cravings, you might end up overeating on things like cream cheese and like the low carb pastries and things that they make out there. Or you're creating like a low carb pizza and you're overeating on it because your body is so starved of the carbs. You end up overeating on the ketogenic or a low carb lifestyle or carnivore or whatever it is. The next thing is the damage it does to your microbiome. Believe it or not, your gut bugs, your good gut bugs in your microbiome, thrive on carbohydrates. And if you starve your good gut bugs, not only through fasting, which they can handle fasting, the bad gut bugs typically die off earliest when you start fasting. The good gut bugs can last longer with fasting, but when you starve them of the carbohydrates in the foods that you're eating as well, so you're fasting, but then you're also not feeding them in the window when you are eating, what happens is those gut bugs, they don't just die off, they start eating your stomach lining. And this is what leads to like leaky gut and issues like that. And when you have a leaky gut, that means the foods that you're eating starts leaking through the membranes, and that's when it causes food allergies. Like if you're like, I have a dairy allergy, or I have a gluten allergy, or why do I have all this? And that's what causes that. So your gut bugs, we want to feed them carbohydrates. If you're not feeding them carbohydrates, they're going to get it themselves by eating your gut lining. And so, which is rich in carbohydrates. It's the mucus layer in between the gut lining and the gut bugs. So it's that mucus layer that starts getting deteriorated from the gut bugs. The answer to this is, if you want to do a low carb diet, if you feel your best on low carb, do low carb, but add in some vegetable source carbohydrates like sweet potato or even regular potato, maybe just one of your meals. This is what I have found to be very successful for a lot of people. Doing a low carb meal for breakfast, a higher carb meal for lunch, and a low carb meal for dinner, but making sure you're keeping your calories within a certain level so that you're actually losing weight. You have to be below the amount of calories that your body's burning in a day if you're looking to lose body fat. Now, if you're doing intermittent fasting and you're shortening your eating window, I think it's very important to get the carbohydrates in with all the macronutrients within your eating window for all of these reasons. It also impacts hormones too. All of these things together make a big difference and impact. And so I think through the research that I've done and all of these things, and I couldn't figure out for the longest time why I was struggling with the low carb lifestyle, and now I uncovered it. I uncovered the purpose and the reason. It was those two things. My body was turning protein into carbohydrates because my carbohydrates were too low to fuel my brain, and it was causing me to have that scenario where I was cycling and falling off track. And then the second thing is I did the damage to my microbiome, which I learned through the microbiome testing. I got tested when I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. I was following the strict keto diet and I was gaining weight, and I'm like, and I was extremely inflamed. My whole body was just in a terrible state, and I couldn't figure out what it was until I got that microbiome test, and it was like, do not eat these foods that you eat every day. It was literally red meat. It was like, don't eat any of these things. And so I cut them out. I followed everything on the microbiome thing, and I also added in carbs, and I was like, okay, screw this diet. I'm not just eating a diet just to eat a diet for just no reason. I want to reach my goals. And so if that's going to involve eating these foods that I thought were bad foods, then I'm going to do that. And that led me to reaching my goals. So take my mistakes and my struggles that I experienced in my life and learn from them so that you don't have to make those mistakes, okay? So if you've got like over 100 pounds to lose and you're like, I need to do the keto diet or I need to do a low carb diet, then that's great. Do that, but maybe have a carb up day. Have some carb cycling in there. Keep your calories the same, right? Track them in an app. Make sure that you are in a calorie deficit even when you have those carbs. It's not going to be a big deal. It's going to help you. It's going to boost your results. It's going to help you get there. But also understand this. When you eat the carbohydrates, you're going to gain the water weight. That's okay. It's just water. When you don't eat the carbohydrates, you lose the water weight. There's going to be more of a wide fluctuation on the scale when you do this. If you're someone like me who's like, you know what, screw it, I'm not doing low carb. I'm just going to keep track of my calories and I'm just going to eat whatever I want in that time frame, then you're not going to have those big fluctuations as much. It's not going to be a massive drop overnight on the scale. You're actually probably going to see a more consistent loss, and it's going to go down regularly, and it's going to stay at a consistent level. It's not going to have those big giant swings because you're not swinging it with water weight. That's a little bit about that. So I hope this helps you. So now let's get into the next topic, which is all about your routine and how your routine could be holding you back from your goals. Every time I get out of routine, either I'm traveling, I'm on a trip, I have people come visit, I've got some stuff going on, it throws me off my game and my goals. And this happens to me very infrequently because I make it a point to make sure I keep my routine very steady and very stable so that I give myself the opportunity to be able to reach my goals without the distractions. So, specifically, traveling and trips really can mess you up. But what I realized on these trips is how difficult it is if your routine is not set up in a way that is created to actually help you reach your goals. So if you are always in the habit and feel like everything is out of control and you're not able to stay on track to whatever fasting goals or whatever it is that you are trying to set for yourself, it's possible that your daily routine could be the reason for this. So if you are used to getting in the car, stopping at Starbucks every day, and you feel like, okay, I have a really hard time breaking this habit of stopping at Starbucks on my way to work, getting this sugary coffee on my way to work. It's like something that's in your routine and it's hard for you to get started on fasting because now you have to break that. Then you need to actually that would be an example of rearranging things so that you can remove that distraction out to be able to have that success for yourself. So either you start going a different way to work so it's not convenient for you, or you leave a little bit later so that you don't have the time to be able to make that additional stop at Starbucks. Also, why are you drinking the Starbucks? Are you drinking it for the caffeine, for the boost, for all of that? Or are you drinking it for the experience of Starbucks, right? Thinking of that. So in my daily routine, what has helped me become the most successful at reaching my goals and maintaining it and staying there is this. I wake up in the morning, I have some water, I take an NAD booster at that time, and I do that for anti-aging and that sort of thing. And then I brew some hot coffee and I drink my hot coffee over ice and a little bit of cinnamon sometimes. And sometimes I'll dilute it with water if I feel like it. And that is my very first step. I used to do these elaborate sugary, not really with sugar, but like sugar soup substitute, creamy coffees, like either blended up with butter or whatever. Like I was creating these like crazy coffees, and I was literally loading myself up with a ton of calories first thing in the morning when I wasn't even hungry. And I had to break that habit, and I did that just simply by swapping one thing that I was doing for another thing. And then over time that becomes a habit, constantly, having the black coffee with the ice as my very first thing I do in the beginning of my fast. Now, years ago, when I was first starting 16 8-hour fasting, it helped me to drink ketones in that time. And that might be beneficial for you if you're used to eating more higher calories and you actually do feel hungry in the morning time. So if that would be your case, then I would say starting a habit of taking or drinking ketones within that time would be beneficial for you versus the habit of having the food that you're trying to eliminate or just not eliminating it. So it's actually better to add something in at the time of taking something out. So when I take out my sugary coffee, I'm adding in the black coffee. So instead of saying I can't have this, I am now saying I can have this. And now I look forward to that. And if I want something hot, I personally don't like hot black coffee, but I love tea. So I will do like green tea. I'll like make myself some green tea with a little bit of sweetener in there, but no milk or anything like that. And I will have that for my hot beverage. And then I will make my black coffee with ice, right? And I've found this works very well for me. And this is how I start my day. Okay. I take a shower, and then after my shower, I get right to work and I start working. I open emails. I stay busy, because staying busy is one of the most important parts to your routine. But you want to stay busy, and you need to break any habits that you may have around staying busy that might be keeping you back. So sometimes we mindlessly eat, like be sitting at the computer, and we will mindlessly be snacking on things. But this is where intermittent fasting is so amazing, because when you have a window that you have designated for your open and your close window for the day, if it's not within that window of time, it's not a question of should I have this snack or shouldn't I have this snack. You just start not doing those things and having that pattern. So I actually broke my pattern with that, of just thinking, okay, what do I need next? What do I need next? And like getting out of the constant mind game of what do I need to eat right now, because it was like I needed to be eating something every single time I opened the refrigerator door, to now, if I'm fasting 23 hours a day, I have a 1 hour eating window when I'm on track with my OMAD goals. I don't even think about it. It's not even like, it's just not a question. So it's like just opens up a lot of brain and mind space, right? And then my husband and I, we go to lunch every day, and you got to think of it like this, because I know a lot of you are probably like, oh my gosh, how can you afford to go to lunch every day? That's crazy. But you got to think of it like this. When you are only eating one meal a day, you are saving a lot of money. And especially if you used to go to Starbucks and you used to go here or there or whatever, and Uber Eats, and then also like you save a lot of money. So I was like, okay, well, that's my justification for feeling like, okay, we can go to lunch every day and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And this is our date, which is important. And your mental health is important too. And so we go to lunch every day, and that allows me to eat whatever I want, complete flexibility, and gives me that freedom to not feel deprived. And then for dinner, I make them dinner, and they all know that I had a large lunch and I ate all my calories at lunch, and I just am not hungry for dinner. They don't even question it. Like sometimes my kids will be like, why aren't you having dinner? And I'll just say, I ate so much at lunch. I would have to stuff myself to have dinner right now, and I'm just not hungry. And so that's my pattern. Now, when you have holidays and you have people coming over, and now all of a sudden your routine is switched up and changed up, and different things start happening, and different there's outside influence, or you're on vacation and now everyone's going to breakfast, and now everyone's going to dinner, and you're having lunch here and you're doing this there. These things disrupt your pattern and your habits, and that makes it become very, very difficult to stick to your regular routine. It doesn't mean you can't do it. You can, and I've done it on vacation for a couple days, but it becomes very difficult, and that's okay. And that's where the flexibility comes in. But I bring that up because if your daily life is in the scenario of what it is when you're on vacation or you have that disrupted time, it'll be very, very difficult for you to stick to a normal pattern that you can make your routine and make it effortless for you. So looking at your actual routine and thinking about what is holding you back in your everyday routine that might be causing you to stay stalled out, to be causing you to eat more than maybe you need or are hungry for, just because, what is it that is causing you to struggle with hitting those goals that you have for yourself? And restructure your daily routine in a way that is manageable to you, feels completely free to you, and doesn't feel like you're on some sort of plan or deprivation, or you're keeping yourself from something, right? Self-care can be considered of a lot of different ways. You can think of self-care as just letting yourself do what you want because you care about yourself and you, whatever, just let yourself go. Or self-care can be, I love myself so much. I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to learn discipline. I'm going to learn how to apply discipline to my lifestyle. I'm not going to die if I miss a meal. I'm not going to die if I miss a snack. It's okay to be hungry sometimes. And here's the other thing, I realized we are actually a soul having a body experience, a human experience, right? We are we are beyond our body. When I actually disconnected myself from my body and started thinking of my body as like just like this apparatus that I am living this life in right now, and that I have to do things to kind of like take care of that body, but the body's going to fight back in different ways, right? Like if you've ever tried meditating and you sit there and you're like, I can't even shut off my mind. And all of a sudden you're like, I need to go to the bathroom. I want coffee. And you start thinking about all these other, that's the body. That's the body that you have to silence. That's the body that's uncomfortable with that moment of just like silence and just sitting there doing nothing. And so this is something you can train yourself to get out of. And so a lot of times we don't just sit there and you can be hungry for moments of your day and it will pass. And that hunger is okay. It's okay to feel that. It's not like feeling hungry is necessarily a bad thing. It is just a feeling and it will pass. So when I realized that and I was like, okay, well, hunger actually isn't that bad. And actually, it goes away pretty quickly. But then I started implementing different tools to help me with the hunger and the cravings and stuff like that. And I just started working with my body. As an example, I'll use different things like ketones within my fasted window to help me maintain my fast longer and make it just like an easier experience for me. But before that, I found it very difficult to fast, and I found it felt like everything was out of control because I didn't have control of my body. But think of your body like it's a pet, It's a pet. Your body's a pet. If you take care of your pet will thrive but you also have to train it. You got to train it. You got to train it. And you can. It's like sit and stay. So, look at your routine. I want you guys this week, I'm giving you a homework assignment, okay? To take a look at your routine, write out what your normal routine is now, and then think about where you want your life to go and become, and what is the routine that you will need to be doing. When you are at your goal, what does the routine actually look like of the person at your goal? And then take that and move it into your day to try to move your day into a way that sets you up for success instead of pulls you backwards, right? If you find it difficult to walk by the vending machine every day on your way to drop off mail in your office and that vending machine is calling at you, walk a different way to drop off the mail, okay? If you find your lunch break, you are wanting to go to McDonald's, then you need to make a plan for your lunch that if you think McDonald's is the thing that's holding you back, it could possibly not be that bad on occasion, but that's just an example of how like different things, like if it's causing you to eat in excess, then that's holding you back, right? So we always want to look at, and there is a really great book called Atomic Habits by James Clear that will help you with your habits. Another thing you can do to keep you accountable to your habits is creating a log of the days that you do the things that you want to do and keeping track of those things. So like how many hours fasted you are, that sort of thing. I keep a log. You can see what this looks like. I just started a new one, and this helped me get through my first 30 days of doing OMAD every day. I will put a link for the one that I use down in the description below. So if you're like, okay, I want to also do that, you can do that as well. But think of your best life routine, okay? So in crafting your best life routine, who do you have to get on board with that, right? Are you in the habit of having 3 meals and you want to drop it down to 1 meal? Maybe you want to start doing OMAD every day and you're like, okay, but I can't do that because every night my husband's like, what's for dinner? And I feel the pressure, the social pressure to eat that meal because everybody eats dinner, then you need to manage the expectations with them that you are going to make them dinner and you will sit with them for dinner, but you are in a fasted state right now and you want to keep that going because you've got goals. So another thing in my daily routine is I try to jump on the rebounder every day. I want to work out after my meal. So like an hour or so after I eat, either I'm going for a walk with my dog or I'm jumping on the rebounder. That is very helpful for me and that moves me closer to my goals. So I try to set it up so that this becomes easy for me. You know, I put my rebounder in a place where I see it, where it's easy for me to get to. It's not like tucked away in a closet up in the attic. It's easy. And so if you want to start doing some sort of daily activity or daily workout, you need to make that effortless and easy for you to do it. If you want to start getting up early and doing your workouts before your day starts so that you can just knock it out and get it done, then setting up your space to be successful would be ideal for that, right? Like if it's a workout video or if it's weights or whatever it is, I know they say like set out your workout clothes before you do it if you're going to the gym or something like that. But day by day, it starts becoming easier and easier as these things start becoming habits. But I think the biggest thing is take inventory of what your lifestyle is now and what the path is you're on now and what the habits are you have built now and what are the big things that are holding you back the most. Write out your daily routine now and then go through that and cross off the things you know are causing you to stay in like a pattern of doing things going in a negative direction, and make a small goal, like do 30 days. Set 30 days to create this new routine and new habits of your life. So, lastly, on the topic of habits and routines, it can be very difficult at first to make these changes, but over time, it becomes easier and easier. And if you do set those smaller goals, like saying, okay, 30 days, I can do anything for 30 days. And making small changes versus doing all these changes all at once can also help you dramatically as well. But also keep a compelling vision for your future and where you are going and what you are working on. And what will your life look like when you follow through with these changes? But sometimes we don't even realize the things that are happening around us in our daily lifestyle could be the things that are making it extremely difficult for us. So, eliminating that and setting yourself up for success could help you a lot. And so I feel like that is one major reason why I have been so successful at sticking to these routines that I set for myself, because I not only make them a habit, but I stick to the routine in my regular daily basis. And after 2 weeks, it just becomes so easy and it's like hitting your stride and it's so worth it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Unlocked podcast. I would love to hear any questions that you might have or comments or anything in the comments below. Your being here matters so much to me, and this podcast really is a passion project for me, and I see it going to big places, but I won't get there without you. So be sure you hit that subscribe button, and I would love to hear your comments below, as well as, you know what I would really love to hear? I would love to hear an update on your progress and your experience and where you are in your journey and how far you have come. And a really positive message, I feel like, is so inspiring for all of us in the community to read. So let us know below where you're at, what you've overcome, what you're doing, what you're working on. I would love to hear that. And I will see you guys in the next one.